Now let's move on to the analysis of indicators. Visual analysis is a very important aspect of technical analysis. However, it has one major drawback. It's subjective. Therefore, where one trader might see head and shoulders, another might not see anything at all. It might be best to think of technical analysis as a blending of both art and science, with the visual aspects representing the artistic side. The scientific aspects would then be attributed to the analysis of indicators. The indicator is a mathematical formula used in the technical analysis of price, or volume of securities, or market indices, with the purpose of forecasting their behavior in the future. Each indicator has certain parameters. A parameter is a variable or constant necessary for calculation of an indicator. The most basic parameter is the time period. A time period is a parameter which establishes the minimum segment of time upon which the indicator is calculated, such as minutes, days, or weeks, depending on the chart type. As a rule, the time period is a variable parameter, meaning that it is necessary for the trader to independently, by trial and error, select the value of this parameter which best suits the stock or market index being examined. Originally, technical analysis was such a difficult and time-consuming task that only professional institutions could afford to conduct it. Today, however, personal computers and modern computer programs are able to carry out the process in minutes, making this trading tool available to all investors. There are various groups of indicators, each of which analyzes certain aspects of a security's behavior. The first is trend indicators, which allow for the estimation of the strength of a trend. Next, volatility indicators, which measure volatility. Momentum indicators measure the speed of change of a security's price. Cycle indicators help reveal the repetitive patterns in a security's price movement. Market strength indicators attempt to determine the degree of interest on the part of investors regarding different securities. Support and resistance indicators seek to identify and estimate the levels of support and resistance for securities. In total, there are more than 100 different indicators used in technical analysis. For our purposes, we're only going to review the basic indicators which a trader would come in contact with most often. Moving averages. The moving average is probably the most well-known analysis indicator used by traders. The basic purpose of the moving average is to eliminate the noise or insignificant fluctuations of the price which interfere with the perception of trends. A moving average is calculated for a certain period of time, ranging from minutes to months, depending on the chart. There are three basic moving averages: simple, exponential, and weighted. Let's look at an example of how to create a simple moving average. The following prices are given for stock XYZ. Let's calculate our simple moving average with a time period of 5 days. First, we add the prices of days 1 through 5. And then we divide the total by 5. 11.95 is the average for the 5th day. We then calculate the 6th day's average. We use the same process as before, but we add the prices of days 2 through 6, and then divide by 5. This process is repeated for the remaining days, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Let's take a look at a chart for the simple moving average we've just calculated. The moving average line is in red. We see that the moving average confirms an uptrend. Because the price line is above the moving average line, it is considered to be bullish. The drawback of the simple moving average is that in its calculation, each day does not reflect changes in the movement of a trend at the time it occurs, because it lags behind. The weighted moving average attempts to address this problem by increasing the weight of the time period sequentially. In other words, the time period furthest from the present moment has the least weight, and the time period nearest the greatest weight. Now here's an example for the calculation of a weighted moving average. As in our previous example, we'll use a 5-day time period for stock XYZ. You can see that the third line specifies the weight of each day, and that the nearest day, day 10, has the greatest weight. In the fourth line, the so-called weighted price is listed, which is the product of the price and its weight. The calculation for the weighted moving average will be similar to that of the simple moving average, with the exception of 2 points. Instead of the prices, the weighted prices are added together. And the divisor is not the time period of 5, but rather the weights of the time period added together. So here's the calculation for day 5. And for day 6. And here are the values for the remaining days, 7 through 10. And this is how the chart will look with our weighted moving average. With the exponential moving average, a different type of weighting is used. The EMA takes into account not the price weight, but rather a percentage of the price. Let's assume we want to calculate a 10% EMA. In this case, we take 10% of the current day's price and add it to 90% of the previous day's EMA. You should notice where all of the previously mentioned moving averages use the time period in their calculations, the EMA uses an exponential percentage. Don't be intimidated by these exponents, as they're easily convertible to time periods. A time period equals 2 divided by exponential percent minus 1. To convert from a time period to an exponential percent, we do the following. 2 divided by time period plus 1. In order to convert the 10% EMA we just discussed into time periods, we would do the following. 2 divided by 0.1 minus 1 equaling 19. Therefore, the time period for the given moving average is equal to 19 days. In the previous examples, we calculated 5-day simple and weighted moving averages. Now let's see what exponential percentage a 5-day time period corresponds to. 2 divided by 5 plus 1 equaling 0.33. This gives us a 33% EMA. Now let's apply what we've learned and calculate a 5-day 33% EMA given the following data. Here are the prices of XYZ stock. Let's take the amount given for day 5 in our SMA as the starting point for the calculations of the EMA. For a 33% exponential moving average, we take 67% of the previous day's EMA and add it to 33% of the current day's price. Now let's calculate the 33% EMA for day 6. We take 67% from the previous day, 11.95 times 0.67 equaling 8. We take 33% of the day 6 price, 12.5 times 0.33 equaling 4.13. We add these two numbers, 8 plus 4.13 equaling 12.13. 12.13 is the 33% 5-day EMA for day 6. We then repeat the calculations for day 7. 12.13 times 0.67 equaling 8.13. 12 3/4 times 0.33 equaling 4.21. 8.13 plus 4.21 equaling 12.34. After we do the calculations for the remaining days, we get the following results. And here's the chart. Now that we've learned how to construct moving averages, it's time to understand the purpose of these indicators. Usually, the price and its moving average are displayed on the same chart. The most traditional way of interpreting a moving average is as follows. Open a long position when the price line rises above the moving average. Open a short position or sell the shares already owned when the price crosses and falls below the moving average. When using computer programs for technical analysis, you'll see that the biggest challenge is not the calculations of moving averages, because the computer does this in a fraction of a second, but rather the choosing of the proper time period. Note that one time period might work for one security, but not necessarily for another. Unfortunately, there are no general recommendations concerning what time period should be used. In each specific case, this period should be chosen by trial and error. Modern programs have special utilities for the optimization of various parameters, including time periods for moving averages.